Killing a Tree by Gieve Patel. Before reading this poem, let's look at a few of its characteristics which make the poem as hard-hitting as it is. When you read the poem, you will find that the images that it creates in your mind are very visceral. Now, what does visceral mean? A visceral feeling is something that one feels very deeply. It is not intellectual per se, that would be cerebral. The poet describes the killing of a tree as though it were human and draws metaphors that are very stark. In this way, it makes you feel deeply for the tree that is being cut as opposed to a mechanical chop. A visceral feeling is more emotional, while the cerebral feeling is more intellectual. Science fiction books and movies, for example, are cerebral in nature, as opposed to a harrowing account of a chronic illness, which would be visceral. A writing technique employed to evoke this said visceral feeling is deep diving into descriptions. In this poem's case, it is all very visual. You can imagine a tree rising out of the fresh soil, birthing leaves and fruits, being tragically uprooted, and the sap following it. All of these images are akin to the human murder. Some writers employ oral images to convey their emotions. Oral, as opposed to visual, is anything related to ear and hearing. Can you think of a figure of speech which represents oral writing? It takes much time to kill a tree. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. It has grown, slowly consuming the earth, rising out of it, feeding upon its crust, absorbing years of sunlight, air, water, and out of its leprous hide, sprouting leaves. In the first stanza, the poet addresses the prospect of killing a tree. He admits that killing a tree is not as simple as jabbing a knife through it. He personifies the tree as if it were human while using the analogy of jabbing a knife against an axe, which would have otherwise been the choice of weapon. Just as laborious as it is to grow one with abundant sunlight, air, and water, that's how time-consuming killing a tree might be. A tree grows gradually, rooting itself to the soil, absorbing nutrients and bearing leaves. So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. Not so much pain will do it. The bleeding bark will heal, and from close to the ground will rise curled green twigs, miniature boughs, which, if unchecked, will expand again to the former size. So, a quick hack like chopping the tree with an axe won't do the trick. The cut will cause pain, yes, but it will do no life-threatening harm. Just like any regular wound, the sap from the bleeding bark will dry, close up, and heal eventually. And from the same cut, branches will grow out, and from them, tiny little leaves will sprout. No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. It is to be roped, tied, and pulled out, snapped out, or pulled out entirely out from the earth cave. And the strength of the tree exposed, the source, white and wet, the most sensitive, hidden for years inside the earth. To kill a tree, it has to be uprooted. It has to be separated from the soil, from the earth that holds it. A rope is to be tied around the tree, and it is to be pulled. It has to be snapped out of the ground completely. The poet refers to the soil as an earth cave because of the dark, hollow, protective nature of the soil below which is similar to that of a cave. Once pulled out, the bottom of the tree is exposed. The source of its strength and the source of its life. The sensitive part is white in color, probably referring to the sap of a tree, which is a white liquid. This part, which has been hidden underneath it all for years together. Then the matter of scorching and choking in sun and air, browning, hardening, twisting, withering, and then it is done. Once uprooted, there is the matter of the source or tree sap drying and withering, twisting, and finally dying.